Good morning, African Confessions. I greet you all. So I am back with another episode here on African Confessions. I'm just waiting for my inbox to load up. Okay, here it is. I have a message that I received from one of our admins. The message reads like this. Good morning, African Confessions. I am back with my story. Like I said, I have been working for this family way before they were even very famous and before they had even established their big church. We had already established a good relationship, me and them. The pastor himself trust me and he respected me very much because he knew that I would not tolerate silly things. Remember that I said he once tried to sleep with me and I denied. From that day he knew that I am a woman of high value. Today I am going to tell you two incidents that left me shocked. The pastor built a hut, a round shaped room thatched with grass, and this hut had cement floor. This room was a sacred room and no one was allowed to go into this room. He transferred all his sacred items from the back room and he started using this room for his personal use. He just announced that nobody is allowed to enter into this room. We all obeyed, no explanation. There was one lady who was allowed to enter, but she would only enter this room wearing white clothes, white shoes at 12 midday. She is the only one who was allowed to clean this sacred room, and she was given instructions on how she was supposed to clean the room. All of this, I saw it with my own eyes, but I never bothered or care or wanted to involve myself because I knew that this so-called man of God was not so clean. Since that day he had tried to seduce me to sleep with him, I knew that he was not God sent, but still other women, they truly and honestly believed that he was a true man of God. She would come once a week to clean and she would follow instructions. She was not allowed to talk to anyone who resided at the pastor's house. I would greet and she would just nod and utter no words. This went on for a while till one day she decided to enter the room wearing black tennis shoes. She came in the morning. On this day she came earlier and I guess she wanted to find out what was happening in that room. Ever since she entered the room, she then lost her mind and she has never been normal again. She went inside the room and she screamed. A loud scream just came from that room. Then she came outside. When I heard the scream, I rushed from the house and I found out that she was just lying on the floor. She was shaking so much. It was as if she had been struck by lightning. She was shaking, and all that I managed to say is that I saw what I saw, and I quickly ran and I called the pastor and his wife and they rushed home. He was angry, but the wife looked puzzled. She tried to enter the room and see what had happened, but the husband made sure to stop her and told her to quickly call the ambulance. She was rushed to the hospital, but she got no help. She kept on shaking throughout the night because they made me to sit beside her bed. It was tormenting, terrifying to see someone shaking throughout the night. As I am speaking with you right now, she has lost her mind. She even sleeps in the street. She has utterly gone mad. Now, after this incident, people started talking and the story went even viral that it had so many versions. It was like a broken telephone. Once it reached far and wide, there were so many different versions. And one day, the pastor and his wife, they were called for a radio interview. In the middle of all this chaos, that is when I saw that this pastor was no pastor. He was no saint. He was the devil, a demon sent straight from hell, because instead of him taking responsibility, he actually gloated, saying that because he pointed at me and he said, "Come here, my child." Then I went there, sat next to him with the cameras looking at me, and he said, "You see this one? When I found her, she had no hope. She was lost. But because of me, God has given her a lot of blessings. Wherever we went, this pastor always had a couple of journalists, photojournalists that went everywhere with him, taking him pictures. These photojournalists that went everywhere with this pastor, they were given a lot of money. The money will be placed in brown paper bags. So I was the one who was responsible to give this journalist money. What I'll do is that I will put the money in the pastor's office, then I will call that journalist to come and pick up that money. Then the pastor will pretend as if he is going to refresh or he is going inside the house to pray, but the office will be left open. Then that journalist will just walk into that office, take that brown paper bag filled with money, then they will just leave. There was no connection if you were ever to accuse this pastor of giving this journalist money. So what this journalist will do is that if there is any scandal that will be brewing involving this pastor's name, let's say that you will be caught cheating with another man's wife, before that story is published, this journalist, they will then track that man or that woman that will be cheating with this pastor. Then they will dig dirt on that woman or on that man. Then they will publish that story first. By the time when they publish the scandal involving the pastor, it will be just a watered down version. That is what happened when we were at that radio station, because instead of that presenter asking hard questions at the pastor, she was actually praising this pastor for giving a lot of people the opportunity to work and the opportunity to have a connection with God. As the radio interview was going on, I wanted to laugh because I knew that this woman who was interviewing the pastor, she had came to the pastor's office and I had personally given her a brown envelope filled with money. So there was no way that she was going to give hard questions to this pastor. I even wanted to laugh more when people started to call in, because I knew that when we drove from the house coming to the radio station, the pastor had hired 10 people. A poor person can do anything for money. These people were just taken straight from the street. They only had one mission, just to listen to the interview. And when the time for people to call in into the radio station had arrived, already that journalist who was interviewing the pastor, she had been given a list of numbers, so she was supposed to only pick up those calls. So she was dropping a lot of calls, and I knew that the calls that she was dropping were people who wanted to complain, so they could not afford people to complain while the pastor was on air. She only picked up calls from these people that we had left at the pastor's office, and all of them, when they called, they were praising the pastor. Some of the women, they were even crying, claiming that the pastor had paid school fees for their children for the next 3 years. After that interview, the church filled with more people and he was labeled as the man of God. One funny thing is that followers were so blinded, and most of them are still blinded. Whilst we were still in that radio station, that is when I came to the realization that most of these radio DJs, when you call in and they don't agree with what you are trying to tell them, they will just put you on mute. Then they will pretend as if your network is bad, because there is a call that came in. So that woman, she was talking about this pastor giving this DJ a piece of her mind, but because she wanted to say that this pastor is fake and she had been duped by this pastor, that DJ quickly put that woman on mute. But in the studio, we could hear every word she was saying, but this DJ kept on saying that, I can't hear you, caller. I think your network is bad. Can you try to call again? Then she just dropped the call. This was quite a big embarrassment to the pastor, even though it was only us who were in the studio at that time. We heard every word that this woman was trying to say. When we arrived back home, he kept on saying that that caller should pay. I don't know her, but she is going to pay. I don't know how they did it, but that caller was traced, I guess, from the call records, and then she was brought to the pastor's house and she was tortured, she was threatened, and she was to make a video apologizing to the pastor and to the entire family. Believe you me, this pastor is really sick, because in his office, whenever I'll go there to clean while he still be working, he kept on replaying this false testimony that they had forced this woman to do, and then he would laugh. In that false testimony, that woman who had called was made to say that she was given an instruction from the underworld and she had a purpose to destroy this pastor's marriage. She was so much in love with this pastor that she went to see some ritualist so that she can make this pastor fall in love with her. And when she saw that she could not seduce this pastor, when she heard the pastor being interviewed on the radio, she called trying to tarnish his name, but she had failed. Please let me get back to work. I'll be back with another story. Remember to keep me anonymous. I know that if he ever hears this story, he will know that it is him that I am talking about. But if I die, at least I'll have died an honorable death. Dear listeners, that was an email that was forwarded to me by one of our admins, saying that they forced this woman to do a false testimony. I'll be back with more stories.